第三位呢度唔該。唔該，唔好晒。
跟住企中間就得㗎啦。係咪都 OK 㗎？
係啊，係口啊，去黃 TV 啊，口啊！唔該曬，唔該啊，做 video，唔該，做 video 啊，唔好試下，唔好試下。
差唔多。好，咁請3位可以就座。好，歡迎大家出席2024年第一季經濟情況及2024年本地生產總值同物價最新預測嘅記者會。首先介紹一下今日出席記者會嘅官員啦。坐喺中間嘅呢就係政府經濟顧問梁永勝先生，而喺佢旁邊呢分別就係首席經濟師張頌詩女士同埋政府統計處助理處長陳麗珊女士。稍後梁先生呢會先後用廣東話同英文呢做個簡介嘅，跟住有答問環節啦。而家先麻煩梁先生。
各位傳媒朋友，大家好，咁歡迎大家出席今日嘅記者會啦。我會講一講第一季香港經濟嘅表現，同埋政府對全年經濟增長同埋通脹嘅最新預測。講幾個要點先啦。咁香港經濟喺第一季錄得溫和增長嘅，實質本地生產總值即係 GDP 啦，按年增長2.7%。勞工市場咧維持緊絀，咁經季節性調整嘅失業率維持喺3.0% 嘅低水平，通脹整體輕微，第一季基本消費物價通脹率係1.0%。咁展望未來，香港經濟喺今年餘下嘅時間咧，應該可以錄得進一步增長嘅。環球需求至今大致維持，市民就業收入穩健增長。加上政府推出措施提振信心，都會支持經濟活動。不過地緣政治局勢緊張同美國減息步伐呢，就會帶嚟一啲不確定性。考慮到今年第一季嘅實際數字同埋全球同本地情況嘅最新發展啦，咁2024年全年經濟實質增長預測就維持喺2.5至3.5% 不變嘅。咁跟住就講下啲詳情。首先講講整體先啦。咁頭先都講過啦，香港經濟喺第一季錄得溫和增長。咁大家喺左邊嗰幅圖咧都睇到啦。咁我哋按年嘅增長係2.7%啦。經季節性調整之後，按季增長咧係2.3%。咁喺右邊嗰幅圖咧，大家都睇到就係一啲唔同嘅開支組成部分咧。都錄得增長嘅，增長得最快嘅就係服務輸出啦。貨物出口咧都進一步改善嘅。咁本地方面消費同埋投資咧都有一啲輕微嘅增長。咁我哋可以逐個組成部分睇一睇。咁服務輸出喺第一季仍然係經濟增長嘅重要動力。第一季繼續顯著增長8.4%。咁呢幅圖我哋睇到咧，就話旅客嘅人次咧喺第一季係進一步上升嘅，由舊年第四季嘅每日平均116000人上升至今年第一季嘅每日平均123000人次，相當於2018年同期嘅71%。咁旅客數目繼續上升咧，就帶動旅遊服務輸出咧就進一步大升40.4% 嘅。 咁運輸服務咧亦都因而繼續上升10.0%。商用同其他服務咧就輕微增長2.1%。但係另一方面咧，就由於跨境金融同埋集資活動持續疲弱啦，咁金融服務輸出咧係進一步下跌6.1%嘅。跟住講講出口，咁講出口之前就講講外部嘅環境先啦。咁其實第一季嚟講咧，整體而言，主要經濟體嘅需求咧都維持得唔錯嘅。咁喺左邊嗰幅圖咧，我哋睇到幾笪地方啦，內地啦、美國啦、歐元區啦，同埋東盟嘅經濟增長。咁其實大部分都係維持穩健，甚至係有少少輕微嘅加快嘅。咁右邊嗰幅圖咧，我哋就睇到佢哋嘅一啲進口需求。咁情況都係一樣啦。咁就都係維持穩健同埋甚至有少少改善嘅。咁因為外部需求維持得都唔錯啦，咁貨物出口咧喺第一季咧就上升6.8%。咁雖然一個比較低嘅比較基數咧，亦都係原因之一。咁尤其是我哋睇到咧，就係話我哋去內地嘅出口啦，同埋去東盟嘅出口啦，係個升幅係特別快嘅。咁去其他市場嘅出口咧，就有啲快啲，有啲慢啲，有啲跌咁樣啦。講返一啲本地嘅組成部分，私人消費開支，咁喺第一季咧係按年輕微擴張1.0%。咁就業收入持續增加，同埋政府推出好多措施去提振氣氛，包括舉辦一啲大型盛事啦，咁都對本地消費咧係提供咗一啲支持嘅。咁投資方面，整體投資開支喺第一季咧，隨住經濟繼續擴張咧，就微升0.3%。咁如果我哋睇返一啲唔同嘅組成部分啦，咁我哋見到就話樓宇同建造嘅開支咧係升得好快下嘅，升咗11.3%。咁但係另一方面咧，喺購置機器啊、設備啊同埋知識產權產品嘅開支方面咧，就跌咗15%。勞工市場咁仍然係維持緊絀啦。經季節性調整嘅失業率維持喺3.0% 嘅低水平啦。我哋都見到勞動人口同埋總就業人數咧，都錄得按年嘅升幅嘅。唔同行業嘅失業率普遍都係維持喺低水平嘅。咁亦都係大致上咧，仍然係有啲係低於2019年第二季經濟衰退前嗰時嘅水平啦，有一啲係同嗰時嘅水平大致相近咁樣。就業收入繼續錄得穩健嘅增長。咁全職僱員嘅每月就業收入中位數咧，第一季係按年名義增長5.4%。咁就算扣減咗通脹之後咧，都實質上升3.4%嘅。咁講講通脹啦。咁第一季嘅基本消費物價通脹咧係仍然輕微嘅。基本綜合消費物價通脹率咧就係1.0%。喺唔同嘅組成部分裏面啦，我哋見到外出用膳同埋外賣嘅價格就錄得比較快少少嘅升幅。咁電力價格咧就因為一個好高嘅比較基數啦，咁就按年顯著下跌嘅。咁私人房屋嘅租金咧就大致平穩。咁其他主要組成項目嗰個價格壓力咧都大致係可控嘅。樓市咁喺撤銷咗所有需求管理措施，即係我哋稱為辣招啊之後咧，咁個市場氣氛咧係好明顯改善咗嘅。 咁成交量變得會活躍咗啦。咁今年頭兩季係每個月2900宗嘅啫，咁去到3月咧就升到4000宗，4月咧更進一步上升至到8600宗，咁係遠高於2019至到2023年平均每個月4700宗呢個水平嘅。咁樓價亦都有啲回穩嘅，咁喺頭兩個月夾埋跌咗3% 之後咧，喺3月咧係回升翻1% 嘅。咁由於樓價喺季內下跌啦，咁市民嘅置業負擔指數咧喺第一季亦都進一步下跌至大約65%。咁跟住就講下嚟緊嘅情況，即係展望係點樣啦。咁首先講個外圍環境先啦。咁我諗過去幾個月最被人關注嘅一個外圍發展就係美國方面嘅通脹放緩嗰個進程係減慢咗嘅。咁所以亦都因此咧係令到市場對美國今年減息嗰個期望咧係有少少降咗溫。咁最新嘅情況啦，就我諗市場而家估計今年美國可能大約會喺9月減息啦，總共大約今年減2次度啦。咁另外一個主要嘅外圍情況、外圍發展呢，就係話嗰個經濟增長係似乎比預期，即係比年初嗰時嘅預期咧係好少少。咁國基會喺4月將佢哋全球經濟增長預測就輕微上調咗0.1個百分點，去到3.2%嘅。咁如果外圍嘅經濟係可以真係繼續維持翻嘅話呢，咁我哋今年嗰個貨物出口呢係有可能呢會可以進一步改善嘅。咁當然啦，另外一方面我哋都要留意就係話地緣政治局勢緊張呢就會帶嚟一啲不確定嘅因素啦。咁喺服務輸出方面，咁隨住我哋嘅接待能力繼續恢復啦，加上政府致力推動城市經濟，亦都致力增加一啲有本地特色嘅旅遊景點，開拓新市場。咁訪港旅遊業呢，應該可以進一步復甦嘅，亦都會進一步支持我哋嘅服務輸出。咁講到本地消費方面啦，咁頭先都講過啦，就業收入增加同埋政府多項嘅提振氣氛嘅措施，其實喺第一季咧都有幫助到香港嘅一啲消費嘅。咁呢啲正面嘅因素咧係應該會繼續可以支撐香港嘅消費。咁但係咧就係大家都成日講啦，就係而家市民嘅消費模式咧就開始有啲轉變。咁呢方面亦都真係會帶嚟一啲挑戰嘅。咁至於投資方面，經濟繼續增長，咁應該能夠對固定資產投資咧提供一啲支持。咁但係頭先都講到啦，而家大家會估計美國今年減息嘅速度會比較慢，咁所以偏緊嘅金融狀況咧係可能會維持得耐啲嘅。咁喺短期內咧就可能會影響到一啲本地嘅經濟信心。通脹，咁我諗今年嚟講，通脹就唔應該係一個太大嘅擔憂嚟嘅。咁我哋亦都預期通脹會繼續保持溫和啦。咁隨住香港經濟繼續增長，咁本地嘅成本呢，或者會面對一啲上升嘅壓力嘅。咁但係外圍嘅價格壓力呢，應該會繼續大致向下呢個趨勢。咁所以整體而言呢，通脹喺短期內咧應該處於一個可控嘅水平。咁之後呢兩張其實都係我summarize 翻我頭先嗰幾張講關於前景嘅一啲睇法，咁就唔喺呢度重複啦。咁大家有時間可以睇睇，咁就寫得比較詳細少少，大家可以睇睇。咁考慮到第一季嘅實際數字啦，同埋剛才提過嘅各項因素啦，咁我哋就將今年經濟增長率嘅預測就維持翻喺 2.5% 至3.5%，咁同我哋年初做財政預算案嗰時嘅預測係一樣嘅。咁基本通脹率咧，亦都係會將佢維持喺1.7% 嘅今年嘅預測啦。咁就或者我而家用英文重複翻剛才嘅一啲要點啦。Good afternoon, everyone. I will now briefly summarize the key points in English. The Hong Kong economy recorded moderate growth in the first quarter of 2024. Real GDP grew by 2.7% year-on-year, having increased by 4.3% in the preceding quarter. On a seasonally adjusted quarter-to-quarter comparison, real GDP increased by 2.3%. Exports of services remained as an important driver of growth, expanding notably by 8.4%. Exports of travel services jumped further, thanks to the continued revival of visitor arrivals. Exports of transport services continued to rise, and exports of business and other services showed modest growth. Yet, exports of financial services declined further. Exports of goods improved further, rising by 6.8%, as external demand turned slightly more favorable, though a very low base of comparison also contributed. Exports to the mainland surged, those to the US declined marginally, and those to the EU decreased further. Domestically, private consumption expenditure rose mildly by 1.0%, supported by the continued increase in employment earnings and the government's various initiatives to boost sentiment. Overall investment expenditure increased slightly by 0.3% alongside the economic expansion. The labor markets remained tight. The unemployment rate stayed low at 3.0% in the first quarter. The unemployment rates of the various major sectors stayed low in general. Employment earnings continued to grow solidly. Underlying consumer price inflation was modest at 1.0% in the first quarter, compared with 1.6% in the preceding quarter. While prices of meals out and takeaway food continued to rise relatively fast, prices of electricity dropped notably against a high base of comparison. Private housing rentals were largely steady. Price pressures on other major components were broadly in check. As for our latest economic forecast, exports of services should be supported by further revival of inbound tourism, alongside the continued recovery of handling capacity and the government's efforts to promote a mega events economy. Exports of goods should improve further if external demand holds up, though geopolitical tensions will bring uncertainties. Domestically, rising employment earnings and the government's initiative to boost sentiment should help private consumption, but residents' changing consumption pattern may pose challenges. Continued economic growth should lend support to fixed assets investments. However, a longer period of tight financial conditions may affect economic confidence and activities. Taking into account the actual outturn in the first quarter and the latest developments of the global and local situation, the real GDP growth forecast for 2024 as a whole is maintained at 2.5% to 3.5%, the same as that announced in the budget. The government will continue to closely monitor the situation. On inflation, overall inflation should stay contained in the near term. Domestic costs may face some upward pressures as the Hong Kong economy continues to grow. External price pressures should remain on a broad downtrend, though heightened geopolitical tensions will bring uncertainties. The forecast rate of underlying consumer price inflation for 2024 is maintained at 1.7%, the same as that announcing the budget. We're now happy to take questions.
而家係答問環節，請大家發問之前咧講講你所代表嘅傳媒機構，睇下大家有冇問題。後邊黑色衫嗰位男士先。
係港台記者想問兩條問題嘅。第一條呢就係隨住有更多嘅內地自由行城市公佈咗呢，咁係咪嚟緊譬如話第二季或者係今年餘下時間都會繼續睇好嗰個嘅服務輸出嘅表現，有助推動到經濟，抑或係仲有啲保留呢？因為新增嗰幾個城市似乎同香港嗰個直航班機都係欠缺嘅。另外第二個問題就係頭先你都提到，即係美國聯儲局可能喺下半年或者較後時間先會減息啊嘛，同埋個幅度都係比較溫和。咁呢一個嘅市場預期點樣可以點樣會影響到即係本港全年個 GDP 個預測咧？唔該。
係講翻自由行先啦，咁就新增嗰8個城市啦，咁前幾日特首都講咗啦，咁預計就可以帶嚟全年係大約30萬旅客啦，咁就呢啲旅客會喺香港消費大約係12至15億啦，為香港嗰個增值帶嚟可能就係話7至9億度啦，咁所以係有幫助嘅。咁我諗除咗自由行之外，香港政府其實而家做緊好多嘢嘅，咁我哋搞緊推廣盛事啦，我哋亦都會有大力發展一啲有本地特色嘅景點啊，或者行程啊呢方面嘅嘢啦。咁當然我哋仲需要就係業界嘅配合，可能要提供一啲啲旅客覺得物有所值嘅一啲服務啊、產品啊咁樣咯。咁如果幾樣嘢都係可以繼續咁樣去做得好嘅話呢，咁應該係對我哋嘅旅遊輸出、旅遊服務嘅輸出，亦都以至整體嘅服務輸出呢，係會有一啲支撐嘅。咁至於講到就係話美國加息嗰度，咁年初嗰時大家估就估得比較樂觀啲嘅，咁嗰時好多人都估大約6、7月度可能會減息啦。咁就可能一年會全年內會減3次啦。咁而家褪後咗啦，估9月啦，估減2次啦。咁就本身如果你話減息減得遲啲、減得少啲，咁即係話嗰個比較緊嗰個金融狀況會維持得耐啲嘅話，咁當然對一啲經濟信心啊、經濟活動啊，都會有少少負面嘅影響嘅。咁但係可能另一方面就話美國點解會遲啲減息呢？咁一個原因可能就係話因為佢嗰個通脹放緩嗰個速度好似比預期慢喎咁另外一方面咧都可能係因為佢起碼到目前嚟講啦，佢嗰個需求都係維持得比預期好嘅。咁所以變咗就係話一方面佢減息減慢啲，但係另一方面佢嗰個需求嗰個放緩嘅速度亦都係慢咗嘅。咁如果呢方面係可以繼續嘅話，亦都可能對我哋嘅出口有翻少少補償嘅作用啦。咁所以兩邊嘅影響都會有啲。
睇下下一條問題，前面西裝嗰位男士。
香港商報幾個問題，首先想問翻跟進翻你哋講話美國延遲減息嗰個預期咧，對嗰個一啲嘅活動略有影響啦。咁可唔可以詳細講下係咪主要針對翻嗰個樓市或者資產市場嘅影響？係咪意味嗰個樓市或者樓市嘅影響或者金融輸出嗰個下跌嗰個速度係咪都係會繼續持續咁樣啦？第二就係想問翻嗰個今年嗰個GDP 嗰個增長嘅動力主要來自啲乜嘢咧？因為息口可能仍然高企，出口嗰度可能即使有啲復甦咁，但係都仍然有啲外滯或者個情況咁樣。咁今年個增長動力會在於啲乜嘢咁樣？可唔可以講講？仲有就係話北上消費對香港消費市道嘅影響，其實係咪已經反映咗出嚟？咁定還是可能今年嗰個消費零售銷售數據嗰度，可能其實都可能係傾向持平，甚至乎可能會有啲些微嘅跌幅，可唔可以講講？唔該。
係講翻嗰個利率個變化嗰度對樓市啊或者資產市場嘅影響啦。咁我諗樓市係有好多因素影響到佢嘅，包括個經濟嘅狀況啦，包括成個樓市嘅供求狀況啦，亦都同利率係會有關啦咁樣。咁就亦都同市場信心都好大關係嘅。咁如果你淨係睇利率會維持喺高位長啲嘅時間，咁本身對嗰個樓市當然係可能會有一啲唔係太好嘅影響啦。咁但係另一方面，咁我哋見到而家經濟都係平穩增長啦。咁我哋亦都見到就係話市民對住屋嘅需求仍然喺度啦。咁同埋就係話大家都留意到咧，就話其實今年年初嘅時候咧，大家信心係好低迷嘅。咁喺樓市嘅信心又低迷啦，整體信心又低迷啦。咁其實今年至今其實政府做咗好多嘢，去到堅定翻個信心。咁喺樓市方面就係話我哋完全撤辣啦。咁我哋之後見到咧樓市嗰個信心都係好咗嘅。咁所以而家咧就係話信心已經係好翻啲啦。咁至於之後往下點樣走咧，就睇翻頭先我講嗰幾個唔同嘅因素嗰個。往後嘅發展如何啦咁講到 GDP 增長力度個動力喺邊度嚟咁嗱？舊年我哋喺疫後復甦啦，2023年我哋疫後復甦，咁所以舊年咧我哋見到就係話一啲以前我哋做唔到嘅嘢可以做翻啦，可以去旅行啦，可以出街食飯啦，可以消費啦。咁所以喺舊年咧就係話消費同埋嗰個旅遊業咧係我哋增長嘅動力。咁今年咧就比較平衡翻少少嘅。今年就係話舊年疫後嗰個快速嘅復甦，咁去咗好多啦已經。咁所以今年喺各方面我哋都會見到就係應該會繼續可以復甦嘅。譬如旅遊業可以繼續再進一步復甦。咁但係另一方面咧，我哋見到就係今年可能我哋今年嗰個出口咧係舊年已經係好差啦。咁今年我哋會喺個低位有得反彈啦。咁同埋今年我哋亦都見到咧就話都有一啲。外部嘅需求咧都係開始有少少嘅改善嘅跡象啦，咁所以可能出口都會有啲幫助，咁所以變咗就係今年嗰個動力咧，就我哋未必話好似舊年咁睇到一兩個特別強勁嘅主要撐住成個經濟，咁就可能係比較平均少少都唔定。咁跟住仲有咩問題？係呢兩個
消費嗰個，即係
北上消費嗰個問題。我諗始終其實呢個都係從一個長遠啲嘅角度睇啦，或者其實我哋見到北上消費既有一啲週期性嘅因素，亦都有一啲所謂結構性因素啦。週期性因素就係話其實過去2年咧，我哋見到港幣升值咗好多嘅。港幣其實喺過去2年咧升咗超過10%㗎啦，咁所以變咗就話我哋會更加覺得其他地方啲嘢平啦，自己覺得自己香港啲嘢相對地嚟講就係香港啲嘢貴啦，咁所以會多啲人消費。咁另外都有啲結構性嘅因素就係而家內地好多服務好多產品個水平都越嚟越高啦。咁而又價格又真係平一大截喎，咁自然會好理所當然啲人會上去消費啦。咁所以呢個係一個結構性嘅問題，就話其實呢個亦都關乎一啲競爭力嘅問題，亦都係一個轉型升級嘅問題。咁所以香港係需要加強返我哋嘅競爭力嘅，我哋要做一啲好嘅產品，吸引到我哋嘅顧客嘅。有一個好嘅消費體驗，令到啲人肯留翻喺香港消費嘅。咁喺呢方面，我諗我哋就相信需要政府同業界都要共同努力先至做得到嘅嘢啦。
睇下有冇下一條問題？有冇其他問題？The gentleman in blue shirt.
Hi. Would you mind if I ask in English? Would that be okay?
Sure.
Thank you. A few questions. One is your notion of geopolitical tensions.
Yeah.
Would you please sort of elaborate a bit more in terms of your forecast of how sanctions from the United States or from the West to China, which in many cases now includes Hong Kong, and also the Hong Kong's economic activity tightly linked to mainland China. How would that impact the Hong Kong economy, and also how much is that being sort of incorporated in your forecast? That's one. And also the another one is on the your notion of the export of financial service, which declined further. I think you're talking about like lower IPO activities and so on, I assume. How much is this sort of incorporated in your second half or the next 3 quarters of your forecast? With this condition that low IPO or the low financial market activity is to continue, or is this something that you have a different sort of forecast which is included in your overall analysis here? Thank you.
Yes, on geopolitical tensions, and of course it's one of the major uncertainties that the Hong Kong government or Hong Kong economy is facing. And of course it will cause some pressure on both the mainland economy and the Hong Kong economies in various sectors or various areas, like exports of goods. Just like the US government has already announced some sanctions against the exports of electric vehicles and other products by China. And of course, this will affect Hong Kong. And in Hong Kong, we always believe in free trade, and we believe that this kind of sanction is harmful to everyone. And not only to Hong Kong and China, but also to the US, because they will have more expensive imported goods, and also it will also affect their technological development, because it simply disrupts the whole supply chain of the whole world. So of course, in the medium term, I think this is an issue that we all have to face and also try to sort out how to solve it. But in the long run, in the short run, I think so far this year, and notwithstanding all the geopolitical tension and the economic target of the mainland is 5% growth, and in the first quarter, and they have achieved 5.3% growth in the first quarter. And so we all also believe that the 5% target should be achievable. So in the short term, and we still expect the economic links and also economic activities between Hong Kong and China can move on. And our forecast of 2.5 to 3.5% for this year's GDP growth for Hong Kong has already taken into account the economic performance of China. And on the exports of financial services, and so far has been quite quiet. And I think about a few weeks ago, and I think the chief executive of the stock exchange and has already announced that there are more than 100 deals in the pipeline waiting for either application or approval. And so hopefully the situation may improve in the coming or in the rest of the year. And but if you look at our forecast, it's 2.5% to 3.5% GDP growth, and I think this range should be wide enough to accommodate the IPO situation as quite as in the first quarter, or some slight improvement in the rest of the year, and our forecast can totally accommodate these different situations.
Sorry, just a quick follow-up. what are you factoring in? A slight improvement is factored in this 2.5 to 3.5%. Is that what you mean? And also for the impact of the sanction, the sanction factor is factored in, but there's something else that able to sort of cover that. Therefore, you haven't changed 2.5 to 3.5. Is that what you mean in the nutshell?
And in a nutshell, you have to understand that the economic forecast process is not just a bottom-up approach to add up every different component. It is simply not feasible and that method is not really a desirable method because of its accuracy. And so we basically have a macroeconomic model, econometric model. So it takes into account the broad expenditure component and also take into account the major determinants like interest rates, exchange rates, and all these kind of economic components. And then after the model, we have some post-modeling assessment to see whether it's reasonable or not. And then we also will do some, sometimes it's quantitative, sometimes qualitative, to try to figure out under different scenarios whether our forecast is still reasonable or achievable. And that's how the process is like. So you cannot say that, oh, how many IPOs am I assuming, or how many more IPOs in the rest of the year that will take place in Hong Kong. We are not doing it this way.
睇下有冇其他問題？好，冇嘅話記者會到呢度結束，唔該晒。